Utah Now is made possible by the members of KUED in partnership with the Larry S. and Allison Smith Challenge Fund, encouraging individuals and businesses throughout Utah to support KUED Community Affairs programming.
Look, it's complicated, the reason any of us is attracted to anyone else. And it's never just one thing. If you ask a couple about the moment they fell for each other, you'll see it's always a combination of things. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's atmosphere or opportunity, and apparently it's the same for lots of creatures.
We can follow a female on the night of when she's in heat. It's actually easy to find that night because mice have this rather spectacular behavior that the female will give birth to 4 to 8 pups, and that's the night she now goes out on the town to mate.
Wayne Potts has actually pinpointed why a mouse is attracted to another mouse. Now, this is only one part of mating behavior. Like we said, it's complicated, but Potts and his colleagues have traced it all the way down to the molecular level, to tiny protein bits that are clinging to a mouse's genes. And this is where the attraction part comes in. Apparently, they give off a very particular scent.
Well, for mice, anogenital sniffing is, just a standard matter of course when you meet a mouse in the barn,
And what exactly is she sniffing out? Well, she's trying to make sure she doesn't mate with someone who has the same type of genes as her own. They're called histocompatibility genes. They guard the body against foreign pathogens. Wayne Potts was studying these genes when he stumbled upon this discovery. The females, he noticed, were choosing partners with different histocompatibility. And it isn't just mice who are sniffing out the right gene type. At least 14 other animals do the same thing, including humans.
So I guess it becomes less clear when that might play out in humans. It's probably not something that can be smelled at any distance.
This scent is carried through body secretions, like sweat. So you got to be up close, like in an embrace. And isn't that one of those times when people say they fell in love or knew it wasn't going to work out?
I should mention that in the last year there is a dating service that has emerged. So for $1,000, they type your histocompatibility genes and use that information for making a match.
Yep, it's complicated. This force of magnetism and attraction, and it's pretty much everywhere in the animal world. It's consistent and it's really powerful.
Animals are about reproducing. Some of the most spectacular biological traits are associated with mating. It's all about reproduction.
Thanks for joining us. The key building block of what we do in public television is the story. Beginning, middle, end. And that's what you're going to see tonight, a collection of stories built around this question: what is love? It's a tough question. As you'll see, it's different things to different people. It's a question bound up in history and culture. It's about science, as you just saw, and it's about experience. Among the stories tonight is one of literature's greatest, Romeo and Juliet, which just closed at the Pioneer Theater Company. But we also gathered other characters, people we met over the past few weeks, and we put the question to them. Here's what we found.
What is love? This is a song. What's the song go?
It's wanting each other.
There's a million adjectives that you could use to describe it, but it's not just one thing, it's a whole package.
It's desperate and needy and wonderful, and
I think it's respect and admiration.
Attitude, likes and dislikes.
Giving and sharing and caring and passion and fun and laughter and
Personality, character.
Okay, this is gonna sound so hokey, but it's like coming home. It's like being really comfortable and familiar.
It just feels right. I don't know, it just feels like the right thing.
It's a thing that...
it's an itch you can't scratch.
Right, it's always been that...
All I know of love is that I have it. I don't really know anything else other than that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to describe.
What is it? Is it infatuation? Is it lust? Is it an emotion? Now the sort of thinking and the sort of emerging neurobiology really does support a model that that suggests that it's a motivational state, that it's a biologically mediated motivational state, but one that is as central to health and well-being as hunger and sleep. That it is almost akin to a drive, that basically we are born to bond, we are wired to bond, and if we don't, we die.
I think, wow. I don't know if I could say that it was one particular thing. Probably what drew me in was she has an amazing smile that just kind of, you know, sucks you right in and you're like, oh, you know. But after that, she was really easy to talk to. Very outgoing and very compassionate, very caring about people. I just felt like I could take on the world, very confident, like someone was in my corner, so that it wasn't just me trying to go for it, but I also had someone else backing me up. For me, I think I always believed that it'd be like, and then a light came down, and then the rose grew out of the garden right automatically and bloomed. I remember we were out at Jordan Commons going to watch a movie, and we sat down because we were early for the movie, so we didn't have anything to do, and it was in the summertime. And we sat down on the bench, and I just remember thinking, you know what, I could marry you. And then I told her at that point, I'm like, you know what, it's weird, but right now, as we're sitting at this completely unromantic park bench with cars going by at Jordan Commons, I feel like I could marry you.
This is just like our apartment.
So true.
The first 18 months to 2 years of a new relationship tend to be the peak times for passion and lust and sexual frequency and all that wonderful stuff.
how's my hair look? Yours looks really good.
It declines pretty precipitously after that point, at just around the same time that the sort of attachment and caregiving and the sort of long-term bond begins to get established.
You look terrific.
Some theorists have actually argued that the whole evolutionary function of that early passionate stage, which has been called limerence, that its function is to just keep the couple together long enough for that longer-term bond to form, because the longer-term bond takes a while to form. So you have to have something that keeps people together.
Take it.
Bill actually came in to visit a friend of mine. We were at work.
Oh, he was tall and flat stomach, big. Oh, he was really something.
She walked in the club and I was fixated from the moment she walked in.
He had that superstar, rock star look.
Yeah, I had a lot of big hair.
A lot of big hair.
A lot of big 80s hair metal hair.
I was coming down the stairs, and Chase was coming in, and it was wow.
It really was wow. 6 foot tall, strawberry blonde, coming down the stairway, spring dress, a knockout.
Yeah, things just seemed to click. I think it was a culmination of a lot of those things that I expected. Someone to not be judgmental, someone who was very beautiful, very compassionate and caring. And I think I just kind of had that moment where I actually slowed down enough to go, huh, this is exactly what I want.
Yeah, actually that tingling, it's a physiological experience. The physiologists have described it, the neuropsychiatrists have described it. A number of people can look at your brain and see where it lights up and you can see it. So it's a real physical experience. It's wonderful, it's delightful. It's chemical, but I would say that's not love. It's great, it's exciting, but that's not quite it.
3 forward steps. 1, 2, 3, side together. So it's almost like the basic. The only little trick is, instead of starting facing the way we are,
dancing comes from looking for love.
So twist your body facing this corner.
If you look at primitive cultures, they still have their dances that, you know, once a week or once a month they get together and they do the little dance to meet their mates.
So that's why it looks so aggressive, because they're used to moving each other, you know, and not following. So when they
you go out dancing to meet somebody. It's sort of like a human mating ritual, going out dancing.
My name is Glade Baldwin. I'm a pharmacist, and I've been a pharmacist for 29 years. And in the last year, I was served divorce papers and terminating my 30-year marriage. Puts me on a different road at age 54 than I ever thought I would be at. One of the things that I looked at was I was on a road, and I could either hate the road that I was on, or I could make the road as delicious, as well-mannered as I could. I went to a Christmas party, and these 2 dance instructors were there, and they demonstrated some dance technique. And they invited everyone, if you want to dance, consider taking our group lessons or our private lessons. And I went home and I thought, wouldn't it be more another adventure to learn how to dance?
What often I think people miss is the ways that love teaches us and the way that love actually shapes our personalities. For example, one thing love can do is it can expand your understanding of what you're capable of. It's kind of like the mother picking up the car to get her toddler out. It's the same kind of idea, is that the things that we do when we're in love sometimes surprise us.
You're not counting, and you're not looking at the person's foot, and you can feel this movement, and you feel the beat of the music, and you know that you're doing it the right way, and you're supporting each other. And it's an exhilarating feeling. It's the epiphany of, I'm doing it right.
It's definitely not something that we made up. There have been a number of anthropologists who have actually combed through the historical record and anthropological record, and they found that in something like 80% of cultures, You find love songs, you find stories and legends of people running off together that they couldn't bear to be apart. So in every culture where people have been asked about the relationships between people, they report the same sorts of feelings and experiences that we would call love.
In the classical period, in ancient Greece and Rome, romantic love was thought of in general as a kind of disaster. But there's a change, and love becomes not a disastrous experience, but a kind of religious and spiritual uplifting. I think what really interests me about Shakespeare's conception of love emerges in the tragedies. And I think Romeo and Juliet is the first time that this vision of love emerges, where there is a kind of association of profound change, of transformation, even a kind of apocalyptic change that the experience of being in love brings to the individual. And I think that Shakespeare regards this as extraordinarily precious.
I think that she is witty. I think that she's funny. I think that she has a great sense of humor. I think that she's an incredibly loyal person and has a lot of faith in the world at the beginning of the play. I think that the play is about her growing up. In a period of 4 days, she goes from being, you know, a young, sheltered girl to being a woman who makes big decisions.
What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet.
Juliet's a teenage girl. I mean, she's 13 years old at the beginning of the play. And she's cherished by her family and has lived, I think, a pretty protected, secluded life.
By whose direction foundst thou out this place?
Ultimately, you know, about 2/3 of the way through the play, or a little more than halfway through the play, she is kind of deserted by her family when she stands up for herself and says, no, I'm not going to marry Paris. I'm going to marry Romeo, who happens to be the son of the mortal enemy of the Capulets.
I gave thee mine before thou didst request it.
She takes life and matters into her own hands and, you know, becomes incredibly adult in a very, very quick amount of time.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no farther than a wanton's bird that lets it hop a little from its hand like a poor prisoner in its twisted gyves, and with a silk thread plucks it back again, so loving jealous of his liberty.
I think that the moment that they kiss is when Juliet is gone. She falls head over heels in love with him.
It's a very profoundly sexual relationship. There's a great speech where she's anticipating her wedding night. And it's a marvelously delicate speech in which both her inexperience and her passionate longing for sexual experience with the man she loves. Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, toward Phoebus' lodging. May the chariot of the sun, those steeds that draw the sun across the sky, gallop and run their course so that the night can come and that Romeo and Juliet can have that moment of consummation for their very passionate love.
Come, night. Come, Romeo. Come, thou day in night. For thou wilt lie upon the wings of night, whiter than new snow on a raven's back.
And she imagines, I think, their sexual union and consummation and the experience of the ultimate sexual pleasure as a kind of supernova moment.
Come, gentle night. Come, loving, black-browed night, give me my Romeo. And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun.
The love that she finds in Romeo changes her and makes her have a mission and a purpose for her life that she didn't have before. And I think that the outside forces that work on her to keep her away from that love are ultimately what causes her to mature and to grow up.
My name's Steve Hatch, and this is my wife.
Hello, Katie.
Katie Masterson. And well, both of us, actually, Katie's from Chicago originally. I'm from Salt Lake, and well, we run a chocolate shop together up in the avenues.
Yeah.
Well, we're both obviously shorter in stature, and there's a national organization called Little People of America, and they hold national conventions every year. We met at one of these conventions in Los Angeles in 1998, I believe.
We exchanged like our numbers back and forth.
True.
I would
We
call.
emailed every now and then?
Yeah, see, I would email, but I would never get a response. And because I was burned and, you know, torn, my heart was like taken out, yanked.
Sorry.
And so, yeah, so I basically
You
was
just moved
moving
on.
And I forgot about Katie. And, you know, shortly after that convention in Portland, the Salt Lake tornado happened. And Katie called.
Because I didn't know where you were in Salt Lake. I just thought you were in Salt Lake City.
So she was concerned about me. So then all of a sudden I started clicking, thinking, wow, a girl was actually concerned. I may die in a tornado. And so I remembered Katie. And so it was shortly after the tornado. And so I thought
you moved
it
to
was an act
Chicago?
of God. And basically we went to that meeting. So that's how we kind of
Buddha
hooked
or
up.
whoever.
And it went from there. We kind of did the long distance dating for a while. And I flew out to Chicago and just moved out to Chicago. And
Stayed there for a year, and you moved back here, and I followed a few months later.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are.
Do you know the first time I actually like I knew you were it?
No.
You don't?
Uh-uh.
I never told you?
No.
I think the moment I realized that I loved Amy was, I think it's when I knew that we couldn't separate from each other. It's almost like
magnets.
Yeah.
Just before leaving, he took me in his arms and said, Russ, this wasn't supposed to happen. And I thought, what wasn't supposed to happen? He says, I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you.
It was interesting. I was actually on a study abroad program, and I was in Cairo. And it was September 11th had happened, and we were trying to get in contact with one another.
Eventually, I called her, and I wasn't worried about her safety. I don't know. I was just wanted to talk to her.
Yeah, it was like an intensity of a situation that it was. You felt like you were spurred to say more things that were meaningful versus just a normal like, we're in two different places. You know, how are you doing?
Yeah.
We were actually on your couch, very much a Victorian couch, like this, not quite as red, and. Anyway, we were kissing. It was the first time we really kissed.
Oh, okay.
And it was the oddest thing because I knew when I kissed you that you were it.
I remember looking into his face and into his eyes, and I think I told him too that I was there.
Our second date was walking down the Charles River in the afternoon, Charles Bank, and I had an operation on my foot for some plantar warts, and I was kind of limping from that process. And I arranged it so that I would generally limp toward her as opposed to limping away from her. And she didn't recoil. And I thought that was probably a pretty good sign.
It was very distinct in my mind, you know, like I have to have, you know, if I'm in love with her and I'll do anything to keep her.
And I think from there we kind of knew that that's where, you know, that inevitably we were going to be together, always.
Well, she decided to go to grad school in Boston, and I guess if there were a time to say that you know everything started going south, I think it would be that. I remember talking to her on the phone, and I remember a couple of times just...
You know it ain't easy.
It seemed like she was very emotionally detached from what I was saying.
There are no words to describe it.
I called her on it. I said, you know, what's going on? And she said, no, nothing's going on.
'Cause diamonds, they fade.
And it wasn't that short after that she ended it.
These feelings won't go away. They even knocking me sideways. They even knocking me out there. Whenever you come around me, but these feelings won't go away.
The most recent development in this work has been brain imaging. And they found that the brain regions that were activated when someone looked at the face of this passionate love partner were the brain regions that were associated with motivation, some of the same regions involved in addiction.
When she said, we're not dating anymore, it was like if you had your life on a piece of glass and then someone just shattered it and you're like, oh, the pieces, where do I grab all these pieces and put them together? I can't.
Those brain regions are totally distinct from the brain regions that are activated when you're sexually aroused. So it's not a lust effect. It's a different phenomenon, more like addiction than anything else.
I guess physically, it just draining, consuming, you get fatigued. And then I felt crazy a couple times where, because I hadn't slept and because I was so emotional, like I'd call up and be like, I just need to talk to you right now. Please talk to me. Please talk to me. And you get nothing but a voicemail. And so then you call back again. Come on, please talk to me. To the point you're driving yourself just insane.
These feelings won't go away. Nah. These feelings won't go away. These feelings won't go away.
How did we meet? We met on a blind date.
Someone had given me a subscription to an online dating site. And I was like, ridiculous, I am not going on this.
Actually, we met at a Super Bowl party. Not the most romantic place, so.
Just out of sheer boredom, one night I logged on.
He was sitting at that little table with our friend, and I knew. I said, I'm gonna marry that guy. And I hadn't met him yet.
So it was right then?
It was right then.
But then you met me and you still went through with it.
I did. And then he sucked me in.
And I think it's kind of cool because we created like our own fate, like we found each other and it just happened just so.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy it did.
I'm happy too.
I danced with her a lot that night, and I fell in love with her about then. Anyway, I asked her for a date. I told the guy that we double dated with, a friend of mine, that I was going to marry her. And here we are.
Our first date was planning her funeral.
In 1996, I had kidney failure and I started kidney dialysis. And I basically was dying. I met my husband as he was my cab driver 3 times a week to my dialysis treatments. I looked forward to going with him because we did talk about different things, and he did show some interest in me as just another human being, as a person that was different than me just being another fare. He drove me probably for a year and a half before we actually decided to have our first date, and we just started talking about the future
and talk about, you know, of course, my desire to live, my desire to get the double organ transplant, but what if not?
Everybody kept saying, well, she may not be around. If you get too emotionally invested, you could get hurt and she'd get hurt. And we were just happy to spend every moment we could until then. 4 or 5 months later, she got the call saying that we have a kidney and a pancreas for you. And she had her operation December 31st of '98, and she woke up January 1st of '99 with 2 new organs and a whole new life.
It was getting harder for me to stay positive and to stay hopeful. And he gave me a reason to stick around.
I actually set out because I wondered, you know, how old can you be and experience infatuation? So I go to professional conferences and I listen to experts on the emotional life of older adults. And pretty consistently, those experts give you an image of an emotional life that's evening out, that's getting calmer, fewer highs, fewer lows. And I would sit there and cringe because the older adults I was talking to were in no way reflecting that reality. One of my favorite women who in her early 80s was wildly in love, and she found herself skipping down the street singing, "I love you, I love you, I love you." So yes, it can be very intense, very late in life, and it can also be complicated. So one thing we did in our internet survey, where we had over 1,000 people from 18 to mid-80s, about 86 years old responding, was we had an intensity scale for people who said they were in love. And what we found was that the highest intensity scores on several measures, including physical intensity, were obtained by people who were 50 and older in new relationships. What it does is it illustrates a possibility, and that's very intriguing, the possibility that in late life our emotional experiences can be more intense than at least the 20-year-olds are reporting.
So we have, I think, much higher stakes now in terms of what we expect from these relationships. We want it to be stable and secure and passionate and thrilling and fascinating and challenging all the time. And then you look at the divorce rate, and some have argued that one of the reasons we have this high divorce rate is we expect so much from these relationships, more than most other cultures on the planet expect. No wonder they end up disappointing us a lot of the time.
Even when I go to the practice and the lessons, I get dressed up. I thought about it one night when I was getting ready, and I thought, this must be how football players feel before they go into a football game. You know, they have their little rituals of what they do and how they do it and what they eat. And I'm doing the same thing, wondering, will I remember the steps? I hope that love isn't a fleeting thing, that's an imaginary thing, but I know there's chemistry to it. I know that there's a pounding of the heart that you feel, and you don't know why it happens or how it happens. And I hope that I'll feel the really deep love and passion again in my life.
When we went out on that first date, I don't think that I ever thought that I would have said, you know, hey, I love you, you know, to her, or even have thought, you know, this is someone that I feel like I could marry. I think it was just, here's a fun girl who is great to talk to. Oh, we're gonna go out again. Oh, we're going out again. Wait, I love you? I do? That's awesome. I love you now. Great. Let's talk about our future. Oh, we're not together? What happened? Where did the love go? So, yeah, I don't know if I think always looking but never seeing it when it happens.
Hello, ready to go?
I remember somebody asking me if something happened and I had to take care of her, what would I do? And I said I'd take care of her. You know, I wouldn't mind doing anything I had to do to take care of her if she got to a point where she had to have constant care. That'd be wonderful. I'd appreciate the opportunity. And I think that's kind of indicates my love for her, you know.
Same for me.
Who is the person who's going to care for me no matter what? Who is the person who will, will die before seeing something happen to me? And it appears that throughout the life course, we need to know that there is someone, one person, one is all it takes. It appears to be sort of a part of our species that we need that one person to take care of us.
Love brings a complete sense of joy. It brings a complete sense of wholeness.
These are all mystical, marvelous things that you don't have to fully understand to appreciate.
It's good for your health. It's good for your cardiovascular health. It's good for your immune system.
I think of it as both. Love is the good and the bad.
When you connect with a person in such a deep way, you know that's love.
Love is a connection that endures. You know, I think it was Aristotle who said, don't call any man happy until his life is over. It's the same kind of idea. You can't know in the beginning. But a connection that endures, looking back, you can recognize and say, oh.
I wanna be